LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. Now listen. I pride myself on being an excellent dinner party guest. I confirm beforehand. Always ask, what can I bring? And if they need something, I always bring it. If they say, I don't need anything, I bring some lovely Martha Stewart hostess gift. I have few food aversions and no food allergies that they have to dance their menu around. I arrive on time and never early, even if I have to sit in the car and wait. I offer to help clean up, even if I really don't want to, and I don't stay too long. The minute there's that brief telltale lull in conversation, I throw my dog Roxy under the bus and say, there's a white boxer I have to let out at home. The dinner is always followed up by a handwritten thank you note on my very fancy Crane stationery. And if you make me dinner or take me out to dinner, I will reciprocate, inviting you over for an evening at our humble abode. It's like a culinary game of ping pong that we adults play. I mean, who wouldn't want to have me over for dinner, right? And I like small dinner parties the best, at least when I'm throwing them. A friend of mine's house isn't much bigger than mine, and she invites a dozen or more people over at one time and amazingly makes it all work, staying cool as a cucumber. I, on the other hand, kind of freak out when I'm juggling the timing of multiple recipes and trying to entertain more than 6 people. My sweet spot is a smaller dinner party, 1 to 4 extra people. Any more than that? And I don't feel like I end up having had any time with anybody and instead feel like some kind of line cook at Denny's. The guests are long gone, I'm exhausted and still scraping creme brulee out of my soiled ramekins. I like the structure of a dinner party as opposed to a party party. A dinner party is like a 3-act play. At the appointed time you arrive, we have appetizers and cocktails, then sit down to something terrific that hopefully gets some oohs and ahs. Then we retire to the living room for a bit of dessert and visiting while digesting. After that, it's time to go home. I had one friend who used to linger for hours after a dinner party, long past that lull in conversation. You could be turning off the lights and going down the hall in your pajamas, and he'd still be sitting on the couch telling you stories of how his mother tried to burn down their Seattle house while the kids were inside. But I digress, because the title of this is Worst Dinner Party Guest Ever, and previously the Worst Dinner Party Guest Ever honor was earned one crazy evening at our house. We invited a good friend and his wife over. We had just seen them a few days before at a Disney Hall concert and noticed she was acting a little strange. Still, they showed up at our house for our dinner party right on time, walked in, handed us a bottle of wine, and the husband said we probably should have canceled. Okay, not sure what that means, but please come in. We poured drinks and sat down over an assortment of tasty appetizers. What's going on, you guys? The wife was still silent and sullen, her lips quivering. The husband proceeded to fill us in that the wife had just confessed to him that she was cheating on him. Again, as this same thing had happened a decade before. This time, she was running around with the handyman with the silver tooth. I think both Bill and I quickly downed our drinks and made refills. This was going to be interesting. The wife ran out of the room, sobbing. The husband said, I have had it this time. And if it's possible, the evening went downhill from there. Thank God I had to excuse myself from this episode of The Young and the Restless Silvertooth to go outside and grill the ribs. Minutes later, however, the wife showed up at the grill. Damn. Again, she started in with the guttural sobbing. She said to me, I don't think I'm going to be going on that upcoming family trip to Ireland. I said, oh, honey, I think you have bigger things to worry about than that. Dinner and dessert was more of the same. Sobbing, running out of the room, another box of Kleenex. Thank God we had stocked up at Costco. And that night, many years ago, the now ex-wife earned the title of the worst dinner party guest ever with flying colors and retained that honor. That is, until a few months ago. The husband has moved on, and the Saturday before last Thanksgiving, he invited us for a dinner party at his house with his kids and girlfriend. He is a fellow Midwesterner like me and a true master of the grill, so his meat is always stellar. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Bill and I arrived with hostess gift in hand, of course. We caught up with the girlfriend, and I hung out with our friend while he grilled the most gorgeous New York steaks I had seen in some time. We all moved into his dining room, sat down, and I cut my first piece of steak. The evening was going well, and we were all conversing and having a good time. I took my bite. I must have been mid-sentence as the steak got stuck well down into my throat and stayed there. At first, I couldn't breathe, and I knew I was in trouble. I had taken CPR classes at my job and been certified several times. We always had the same crotchety old LA fireman teach our classes. He would spend the first half of the class telling us horror stories about people having heart attacks on his shift. I guess the best place in town to have a heart attack is LAX, as there are more defibrillators per square foot than at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. Now you know. Finally, we were given our little Resusci Anne dolls. Those are those androgynous, bald plastic people you have to practice doing mouth-to-mouth and CPR compressions on. And did you know that the face of Resusci Anne is based on the death mask of an unidentified young woman who drowned in the River Seine in the late 1880s? True. Kind of creepy. Our cranky fireman told us that things had changed, and contrary to what I learned getting my Boy Scout First Aid Merit Badge back in Des Moines, Iowa, you don't even have to do mouth-to-mouth anymore. Well, wait, you can if they're hot, but it's not necessary. He also told us about doing the Heimlich maneuver, and he said we could do a modified version on ourselves. I made a mental note. I passed his class, bonded with my Resusci Anne doll, whom I had named Howard, got my CPR certified card, and went on my way. So here I was, years later, a piece of steak which felt like it was the size of Rhode Island stuck in my throat. I knew things weren't good. Everybody else was just sitting down to eat. In hindsight, I should have stood up and crossed my hands back and forth around my neck, letting the room know I couldn't breathe. To be honest, I didn't want to ruin everybody else's dinner by having somebody do the Heimlich on me and have this pesky piece of steak and Lord knows what else fly across the table. Yeah, it's kind of an appetite spoiler. My first impulse was to use my CPR skills, get to the bathroom to try and dislodge it myself. I made a beeline for the John and started in on the heave-ho like some kind of yuppie pirate. I finally got it moved enough so I was able to breathe in air. Okay, step one accomplished. But the damn thing remained totally blocking my esophagus. Bill showed up in the bathroom and asked if he should call 911. I said that since I could breathe, he didn't need to, but I was in major distress. It was like somebody had put a manhole cover halfway down my throat. Sorry for the visual, but nothing, and I mean nothing, saliva, anything would go past it. I had to keep spitting everything out into Kleenex. Thankfully, our friend had stocked up at Costco. Bill rushed me to the emergency room. In addition to nothing going down past this blockage, below the blockage, my poor body was trying to take care of this intruder on its own. Periodically, it would start spasming in order to extricate the steak, which was still going nowhere. The involuntary gurgling and animal sounds coming out of my body was like nothing I had ever heard, and I think it scared the crap out of Bill. Hell, it scared the crap out of me. I was like the alien in the movie Alien. We sat in the lobby of the ER for a bit, my spasming and spitting being quite the show as I went through 3 more boxes of Kleenex before they finally took me in. They tried a bunch of things to get the steak out, but it wasn't going anywhere. They took an EKG, a chest x-ray, and finally determined I had to have an emergency endoscopy ASAP. It being 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, they summoned in the head GI doctor who was on call. They swabbed me to check for COVID. I said goodbye to Bill, and they whisked me up to the surgery floor, my body now going on 3 hours of basically rejecting itself from the inside out. Frankly, I couldn't blame it. As they were wheeling me into the pre-surgery area, I saw this androgynous person who vaguely resembled Resusci Anne, only with a Larry Fine bowl haircut. She was talking on a cell phone in the hallway, approached my gurney and said in a heavy Russian accent, "Hello, Anthony, I'm Olga, your anesthesiologist." They wheeled me into the operating room, the doctor having scrubbed in, 2 male nurses and Anastasia in flannel joining me by my side. I didn't know how she was going to knock me out with my poor digestive tract completely stopped up like the 405 freeway on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. A wave of uncontrollable alien retching and spasming came over me again. "I'm so sorry," I told her, my Midwest manners kicking into gear. She lowered the rubber cup over my nose and mouth. Before I could say Sigourney Weaver, my eyes closed and I saw yellow sparks of light, like when Jennifer Beals was welding in the movie Flashdance. I was losing consciousness, and only later did I recall that after seeing those yellow sparks and falling into that propofol abyss that, as God is my witness, the group ABBA was standing before me.
LOL take two. LOL take two. LOL take two. To be continued.